Hello and welcome from the Irish Gypsy. I'm back to do your December 2015 readings. I will again be using the Gilded Tarot deck, pulling 8 cards for the month, 2 cards for each week, with an additional card for the overall theme or general feeling of the month. Now these are general readings, so they may not apply or resonate the same for everyone. I suggest you also check your rising and your moon sign as well. If you'd like an extension of this reading or a personal reading, you can click on the About button on my channel's homepage, and that will give you a little more detail about myself, the services I offer, and my contact information. Excuse me. I will be running holiday specials for the month of December. From the 1st to the 31st, I will be offering 30-minute readings for $25 and 60-minute readings for $50. And I also do a 3-question spread where you email me your 3 questions, and I will email you the written version of that reading along with an accompanying picture of the card layout for your questions. So for those of you, excuse me, I have a sore throat today. For those of you who will be watching and listening and subscribing to my channel, and those of you who already have, my thanks and appreciation go out to you. It's been a pleasure to meet those of you and to do the readings that I have for those of you that have pinged me for that. So I wish everyone who watches and those of you who aren't a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So let's get to it. This reading is for Taurus for the month of December 2015. The bulls of the zodiac, my lovely strong Taurians. What does the month of December hold for you? Taurus, December 2015. Okay. For the first week of the month, we have the Four of Cups, followed by the Three of Swords. For the second week, we have the Two of Cups, followed by the Four of Wands. For the third week, we have the Empress, followed by the King of Swords. For the fourth week, we have the Two of Wands, followed by the Chariot card. And as your overall theme or general feeling of the month, the last card of the deck is the Magician. Interesting reading for us. Let's see if we can put this story together. As you know, there's no definitive beginning and end to the timeline of the cards. This represents the reading for the general month of December, but this could also be a situation that you came into in November and also go into a bit of January with as well. So we begin with the Four of Cups. Whoops, jumped right out of my hand. Followed by the Three of Swords. Now, the Four of Cups, the element being water, and the Suit of Cups representing love, emotion, relationships, how we relate to other people. This I like to call the boredom and ingratitude card a bit. It shows a man who is reclining back in the grass. There are 3 goblets upright beside him in the grass, and one being offered to him out of the sky in front of him. And he's not really paying attention either to what he has around him or what is currently being offered to him. This is a card quite literally of not seeing what's right in front of your face, not seeing what's being offered, not seeing what's right around you, and also something that's being offered to you at this time. Usually an offering of love, of emotional connection of some kind. This is a card perhaps of being bored, perhaps coming from a place where you've had enough. You're bored. You're dissatisfied. You're not really you're full. You're not really interested. You're not seeing what's around you and what's being offered to you. Now this card is accompanied by the Three of Swords. It's a card I don't really like to see. I often look at this as the Heartbreak card. Swords represents thoughts, emotion, logic, ideas, mental projections, things like that, ways of thinking. It has a heart that's been completely pierced through and impaled by 3 swords. It's typically a card that shows up when it's representing some kind of serious heartache, some kind of serious heartbreak. Perhaps you've come into the month of December going through a difficult breakup period. Maybe you've had a significant relationship with someone, a love relationship that's broken up. I think for some of you this is going to be the case, that you're just in a place in your life where you're not interested in what you have around you. You're not interested in any new offers right now because you're suffering from a broken heart. Someone has hurt you and hurt you quite deeply. The other thing this could be for some of you is that this sense of dissatisfaction and boredom that you're having, you need to pay attention to, because it could lead to your having a broken heart, or to breaking someone else's heart. Perhaps you're in a relationship where you're just bored. There's nothing new in it. There's nothing exciting in it. Perhaps you feel like it's coming to a conclusion of some kind, or you're running the risk of actually hurting someone else and breaking someone else's heart. This could also play out the opposite way, that it could be you, perhaps that you're um, suffering from a broken heart, or that your mate has told you, your boyfriend or girlfriend has told you that they're feeling a little bored, they're feeling a little disinterested, and this is the result that it's having. It seems as if you're in a place where you're hurting. Someone's hurt you quite deeply. Now, and I'm sorry to see that. I hate to see that, especially as we're going into the holiday season, with so many people celebrating and rejoicing all around us. Now, in the second week, we have the Two of Cups, followed by the Four of Wands. And this is an interesting combination to get directly after the Four of Cups and the Three of Swords. After being bored, or perhaps being in a place where you're feeling apathy because your heart is broken and you just want to stay in your little hidey hole like we do when we're in pain, and kind of ignore the world, not really interested in anything outside of ourselves. But the Two of Cups is traditionally the soulmate card. It's the card of the birth of a love between two people that exceeds more than just the physical, the tangible chemistry kind of attraction. It's an attraction also of the heart and of spirituality, your soulmate, your kindred spirit, so to speak. And it's paired with the Four of Wands. Wands, the element being fire or air, and it represents change, power, action, creativity. This I see as like the happy family, happy home kind of card. It represents being in a place in your life where everything seems to be on track. It shows a man and a woman and a child in a circle of rods, and they have a wreath of flowers above them. And it's just a card of contentment, of family, of feeling like you're in a place where you fit, where everything is going just right, where everything feels very connected. So following directly on the heels of this Four of Cups and this Three of Swords, I think it's going to play out a couple different ways for a few different Tauruses. I think that what this is saying, one, is that this person that you've broken up with, or in the process of breaking up with, was someone that you had seen as a soulmate, someone that you had seen as being able to have a lasting, happy home life with. Um, Perhaps someone has broken up with you and you're completely devastated. You're really heartbroken because, again, you saw this person as your soulmate, your kindred spirit, and someone that you were going to build a happy life and have a happy home with for the foreseeable future. This could also mean, a Taurus, that if you're the one that's in an attitude of feeling disinterested just in general, disinterested in this relationship, perhaps you've gotten to the point where you're taking it for granted, or you're being taken for granted, and that this is what you're risking um, if you kind of continue along this way of thinking. Or perhaps it's your mate, it's the person that you're with. This could also be that you're coming into ending November, coming into December, and this has been your general frame of mind, because the first two cards can also be the recent past. It could be that you're coming from a place where you've just been very apathetic, very bored, very disinterested, because someone has hurt you, because you've been suffering and trying to heal from a broken heart. And perhaps in the month of December, you meet your soulmate, you meet your kindred spirit. This could also be that the relationship that has broken up, that there is a chance for reconciliation, that somehow, perhaps during the holiday seasons when people can be feeling rather nostalgic and emotional, perhaps this is a time where the two of you have come together and are exploring reconnecting again and moving forward into that happy home life that seems to be so important to you. Now, in the third week, we have the Empress card, followed by the King of Swords. And I see this in a couple of different ways which actually relate to each other. I see this as a pairing almost of duality and of advice. The Empress is, the words that come to mind when I look at the Empress, which is a major arcana card, is fertility, creativity, abundance, reaching out. It's about being nurturing. It's about the emotional connections between people. It's about also the bit of advice being that perhaps you need to take on more qualities of this Empress, and that it's time to reach out more than you have been, and to become more receptive in general, um, to more gentle, nurturing energy and influence. This could also, for some of you, represent this mate, this soulmate, this kindred spirit. Now, it's paired with the King of Swords, which at first glance can seem at opposition to the Empress. And for some of you, I think there's going to be a duality. You're examining a duality within yourself of not being able to, of trying to find a balance between being too so nurturing, trying to be so nurturing and in touch with your feminine side, especially for the men that are watching, and also being like the King of Swords. Swords is a suit of thought, of intellect, of ways of thinking, of logic. It's more of a mental card. And the king is someone who is incredibly clear thinking. He has a lot of wisdom and he has a lot of high clarity of thought. In some ways, he's a good pairing with the Empress. This could, again, like I said, this could be asking you to maintain a balance between these two character traits. This could also represent, Taurus, that one of the issues that you've had in this relationship that either didn't work out or is on the rocks or has the possibility of a reconciliation is that you were being asked to be more like the Empress when perhaps you've been more like the King of Swords. The King of Swords is a good man, a steady, it could also be a woman, a steady, reliable, practical person, someone who thinks before they act most of the time, someone who relies more on their intellect, their logic, their thinking than they do their emotions. And that may have been an issue in this relationship or an issue with your mate or yourself, depending on where you fall in this relationship. This pairing is also about putting creative action into ideas that you might have, because the King of Swords is an action-oriented card as well. It's fire, it's air, it's about movement, action, change, power, and all of which the king has in his possession because he's a king. He has a fair amount of wisdom and experience behind him, and being the King of Swords, he has the ability to cut right through the BS in any situation and make the most logical decision for the best. But on the other hand, he can also come across as a little too cool, a little too detached, a little too logical, a little too emotional. And I think that a piece of advice would be to try and maintain a balance between these two individuals in terms of your personality type. That may have been an issue in previous relationships and one that you are taking a look at now. This could also be the pairing between you and your significant other, your soulmate, that you two fit together in ways that you haven't been able to fit with anyone else. Now, the last week of the month, excuse me, we have the Two of Wands, choice card, and the Chariot. Now, the Two of Wands, wands being, again, fire and air, passion, creativity, could be career. It shows a man who's standing at the crossroads of two paths. He's considering which one to take. It's very difficult to know because each of them looks fairly similar to the other. They're headed off in basically the same direction. They end up on the horizon in basically the same position. And it's really difficult to tell from where he's standing what any kind of outcome will be because he's only at the crossroads. This is a card about making choices, about reflecting for a minute and looking and also trying to combine the powers of intuition and of creativity that the Empress of the previous week has, along with the King of Swords' ability to be wise, to be able to judge a situation clearly, consciously, fairly, and with a great deal of clarity and insight. This card is paired with the Chariot card, and I think that this pairing, Taurus, represents taking a very decisive and aggressive, making a very decisive commitment about something, that whatever choice you make, that you probably should do it sooner rather than later, as the Chariot also represents speed, things moving quickly, things moving at a fast rate. And I think that whatever decision that you make in this, whether it's to move on or to try and reconcile with this individual, excuse me, or for some of you, this is going to mean changing perhaps a way of thinking that you had about how you relate to other people, and changing perhaps the way that you relate to people in general. But whatever choice you make, it's going to need to be made sooner rather than later, and it looks like it's going to be happening quite quickly, that this choice is going to be presented to you quite quickly. The Chariot also is about harnessing two opposite energies and putting them together in a way that provides forward motion. In the Two of Wands, excuse me, in the Two of Wands, he's trying to decide between two paths, or trying to decide if there's a way that he can utilize both of them. And you can't do that because you'll end up going nowhere. And I think that this coupling of the Two of Wands and the Chariot is asking you to make a very definitive, very aggressive decision, to make a commitment and to stick with it. Now, the overall theme or general feeling of the month, you pulled the Magician card, which just really echoes the message of the last few cards. The Magician is another major arcana card. You have three. The last reading I did had three as well. The Magician is a person who has come to the culmination of his craft. You can see he's balancing a symbol from each of the suits. He's walked along a path. He has a lot of experience. He's learned from trial and error. He's reached some wisdom and some clarity and some insight. And he has mastered all the tools and techniques of his trade, so he's in a place now where he has everything that he needs within himself to accomplish any goal he sets out, to finish any project that he sets out on. He has everything he needs within himself. This is about taking action and taking things into your own hands and creating your own happiness. This is about saying, okay, I want this. I'm going to go out and create it, because you have everything that you need in order to do this. And I think that in this reading, Taurus, I think that, let's recap for a minute. We started off with the Four of Cups and the Three of Swords, implying that perhaps you're at an area in your life where you've just been very apathetic and very indecisive because you've been suffering from some kind of broken heart. Someone has hurt you or hurt you quite deeply, and you're just not interested in reaching out anymore. In the second week, we have the Two of Cups with the Four of Wands, which implies either a reconciliation with this person, somebody new who's coming into your life with the potential for a long distance stamina for the relationship. It can also represent that the person that has broken up with you, or that you are breaking up, or that it looks like it might be breaking up, that this was someone that you saw as your soulmate, as a kindred spirit of sorts, and someone that you thought you were going to be able to build a life and a happy home with for many, many years down the road. It's going to play out differently for different Tauruses. Now, in the third week, we have the Empress, followed by the King of Swords, which again I see as you're being asked to walk a balance between a balance of these personality traits of being perhaps a little softer, a little more intuitive, to be more receptive to change. As the King of Swords, he's very fair and just, but he's almost a little too cold and unemotional. He can come across that way. Very thought-oriented, very rational, tends not to do anything before he's thought it out first. And I think this coupling of cards is asking you, one, to try and maintain a balance between being that person, to not swing too far in one way or the other, and which I think, Taurus, you're well able to do. You're one of the most grounded, practical signs in the zodiac. This could also be you and your mate, your significant other, and if it is, it looks like a pretty good match, even though you guys differ in a lot of ways. It also makes it so that you might fit better in a lot of ways as well. In the last week, we have the Two of Wands, followed by the Chariot card. And as we just went over, I think that this is saying that whatever decision you make about this, whether it's a decision to try and look at how you relate to people and maybe seeing what help you can get to learn how to change those things, or you have to make a decision whether or not you want to leave a certain relationship, a relationship that's been very significant and very soul connected for you. Perhaps you found something out about this person that led you to this heartbreak and led you to be in a place towards the end of the month where you're trying to make a decision on which path to take. Do I move on? Do I stay and fix it? What do I do? It's accompanied by the Chariot card, which implies that you're going to have to make this decision fairly quickly, sooner rather than later, that you need to make an aggressive commitment to it and stick to it, and that you can't split yourself between two paths. It's not possible. So that you need to make a decision and a commitment on it. And as the overall theme being the Magician, it's telling me, again, it's just an echo of this message that it's up to you, Taurus. This month, it is up to you to put together what you want, to put together, to have the strength to make the decision. I mean, I can't advise you what to do, but I can tell you that staying true to who you are and staying authentic to who you are at the end of the day is usually the best way to go. And the Magician is saying that you have everything that you need to either survive the transition of walking out of this relationship or staying and doing whatever it is you need to do in order to fix it. Very interesting reading, Taurus. It seems to me, first and foremost, to be centered more around love and relationships than anything else. And even though it can be sometimes kind of scary to look and see, to look at commitments or at trying to do things to change the nature of who we are, but the Magician card is telling you that you have everything that you need in order to um, accomplish any goal you set your mind to. You have the experience, you have the time, you have the tools of the trade, so to speak, whatever they might be, and you're really, that this month is going to be about you, that how this plays out is going to be exactly about what you do to visualize it, to enact it, to create it. It's going to be very important that way. So Taurus won an interesting reading for December 2015. I hope you got something out of it. But even if you didn't and you'd like a personal reading, again, just click on the About button on my channel's homepage. I look forward to seeing you next month and seeing if you have indeed hooked up with this person. And as always, I wish you, oh, wait, I wanted to tell you Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And always that I wish you blessings, peace, joy, and a happy life.